Hi guys, and welcome back to the ACE Academy. In this video, we will be looking at how to find the equation of a parabola using a given sketch, and thereafter we would go on to how to plot a parabola using a given equation. Now, when you are working with any parabola, our first step will of course be to write down the standard equation for any parabola. And in this case, the equation for a parabola would be f of x is equal to ax squared plus q. Okay, now looking at this parabola that we have on the screen right now, you can see that we only know 2 points on this parabola, and that would be the y-intercept and another point on this parabola, somewhere on this parabola. We know that its coordinates is x value of 12 for a y value of 32. Now, how are we going to find the equation of this parabola using those 2 bits of information? Firstly, what we can see is that we have our y-intercept. Now, our y-intercept is quite important because that is also our vertical shift, and that directly corresponds with the q value. So there you go, you already have one value to substitute into this equation. So if I substituted that into the equation, my equation would now be f of x is equal to ax squared minus 4, because we have shifted the original parabola down by 4 units. Now, if we're looking at this equation that we've just derived, we can see that there is still one unknown value that we're supposed to know if we are going to define this function, and that is the a value. And the a value directly corresponds or correlates with the change in shape of the function. It's a manipulation of shape. Now, this value cannot be simply obtained by looking at the function on the Cartesian plane. What we'd have to do to obtain this value is we would have to substitute in some known point on the function to solve for it mathematically. Now, that's quite convenient, don't you think? Because on the screen right now, you can see that we do know another known point on this parabola, and that is the point 12 and 32. So if I was to substitute in that point into this equation that we just obtained, that would lead me to get a y value of 32 is equal to a into, what is my x value? 12. So 12 squared minus 4. Okay. And now we only have one unknown variable, and that is a. So let's simplify this equation. Let's do some transposition and solve for a. If I move the negative 4 across in order to isolate a, I would now get 32 plus 4, which would leave me with an answer of 36. So 36 is equal to a times 12 squared, which should be 144. So 144 times a is equal to 36. In order for me to solve for a, I would just divide both sides by 144. So let me divide both sides by 144. I should get a is equal to 36 over 144. And that should give me a nice clean answer of a quarter, 1 over 4. So now I know that my a value is 1/4, 1 over 4. Now I have solved for all the unknowns in the formula. So let me go ahead and substitute all my unknowns back into the original formula. I would now get the new equation of f of x is equal to, substituting in for a, I will get 1 over 4 times x squared, and my q value was negative 4. That's it. I've obtained the formula for this parabola. Another thing that I can do, just to make this formula a bit neater, I can go ahead and say f of x is equal to x squared over 4 minus 4. And there you have it. It's that simple. Now moving on to the next part of this video, we will be looking at sketching a parabola from a given equation. Okay guys, so in this part of the video, we are now going to be using a given equation and we are going to plot the function. Now when it comes to plotting a function such as the parabola, sometimes we can have numbers that are quite large. Now when I'm speaking about large numbers, I'm trying to make you guys understand that sometimes these large numbers wouldn't fit on a Cartesian plane that has been given to you with defined numbers. So in terms of something like this, we would rather use a Cartesian plane that is empty. It doesn't have any assigned values. And we are then going to put in the assigned values so that we can work with it a bit better. It makes more sense to us, right? Now, looking at the given equation, we have f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 98. Now, that minus 98 is a rather large number. So, when we work with a parabola, there are a few important points on the parabola that allow us to define it. We know that a parabola's shape can be determined from the a value, and in this case, that would be the positive 2. Now, because it is positive, positive means happy. Think of a nice large smile. So we know that it is going to have the smiley face shape. That's the first thing that we can take away from it. The second thing that we can take away from the equation is the fact that we have the y-intercept, which would be negative 98. Okay? The third thing that we are going to need in order to define this function would be the function's x-intercepts. So the important point that you guys need to know about a parabola is its y-intercept, you need to know its shape, and you need to know its x-intercepts. So from the equation, we already know its shape. We already know its y-intercept. The only thing that is missing is its x-intercepts. So let me first plot down the information that I know. I know that its y-intercept is at negative 98. So I'm going to find somewhere on this parabola, and I'm going to make a point on the y-axis, and I'm going to label it negative 98. Okay, that's done. Now I'm going to work on finding the x-intercepts of this parabola. Okay, the way I do that, you can refer to the previous video where I explained how to obtain the x-intercepts of a parabola. I'm simply going to solve this. So I'm going to let y equal to 0, so 0 would equal to 2x squared minus 98. Transposing, I would get positive 98 is equal to 2x squared. Getting rid of the 2 that is attached to my x squared, I would now obtain 98 over 2 is equal to x squared. Now I am solving for x and not for x squared. So I am going to root both sides. If I root both sides, I would get x squared under a square root sign is equal to 98 divided by 2 should be 49. Root of 49. And I would get I would get x is equal to 7. Or x is equal to negative 7. Because if I square 7, I will get an answer of 49. And if I square negative 7, I would also get an answer of 49. So this was using the solving for x method. You could also use the factorization method and you should get the exact same answer, right? So now I'm going to plot positive 7 here, and I will plot negative 7 there. Okay, so let me just label that quickly. Positive 7, negative 7. and I have all the data I need to plot this parabola. So I could simply draw it in. And there you have it. The parabola has been plotted. My apologies. I know my lines are not exactly perfect, but hey, that's the gist of it. So that is how you would plot a parabola using a given equation. Remember, guys, you need to know your x-intercepts, your y-intercept, and the shape of the parabola. All the best, guys. That's it from me, and I will see you in the next one.